Thank you for joining another episode of Brand Decoded Show. Today's episode is going to ruffle some feathers, so sit tight, hang on to your chair, to the edge of the seats of your chair, and we will talk about the reasons why Webflow, Framer, Squarespace, and Wix are not real websites, and let me dive right into it. So, first of all, we'll start by talking about the value of the skill of the people that are doing these builder type of things are delivering to the company, what the companies and the buyers of the website need to consider when they're getting the website created in these tools. I will also make a use case for when these tools are good, and I'll also provide some alternatives that are probably better suited for the goals that your business is having, and what is the ultimate goal of building the site. So the reason why third-party platforms that are hosting your site on their own server and black boxing it into their own environment, why they're not the real website is because you as a programmer, you do not have access to the server. And there are a lot of things that you need to do for the SEO side of things from the technical standpoint of view that you cannot do on these platforms because you don't have access to the HT access, you cannot access any of the dependencies. I don't want to get overly too technical, but there's a lot of components that you cannot execute on that are needed for the SEO to be functioning. And in my world, I am connecting the website and SEO together as indivisible. There is no need for you to acquire a real website if you're not doing SEO. And that is creating a use case for when Webflow, Framer, Squarespace, and Wix are useful tools. If you're not doing the SEO, these tools are okay. But if you are, then you really need to have an actual site. You cannot have these hobby tools delivering, you cannot bring like a pocket knife to a gunfight. SEO is a gunfight, and these hobby level tools, they're not real websites. And you're in the SEO world, in order for you to be successful and reach on the first page, you have to run faster than the guys that are on the second page. You don't have to be the fastest, you just have to run faster. Now, I want to tell you about the Core Web Vitals and Page Speed Insights. These are two metrics that Google is utilizing when they're evaluating the strength of the site. So you can go to pagespeedinsights.dev.com. It's Google's platform. It's a third-party benchmarking test that allows you to see how fast the website is. So the Core Web Vitals is measured by the speed of the site inside of the Chrome browser itself. So it's actual real user data. And very fun fact that 95% of the websites are not passing the Core Web Vitals. And if you go ahead and go to webflow.com and you put that webflow.com domain inside of the PageSpeed Insights, you will see that their own website is failing the Core Web Vitals test. You have to understand that only 5% of the websites in total are passing the Core Web Vitals test. And out of those 5% that are passing, 50% of them are on the first page of Google. So if you go and kind of like average out and test out how many of the web pages on the first page of Google are passing the Core Web Vitals, it's about 50%. So like the minority of 5% of the websites are omnipresent on the first page of Google. So that means that Google is giving these technical factors a consideration when it's trying to decide what will rank on the first page. While we as SEOs, we like to say that correlation doesn't equal causation, logically speaking, this correlation is significant enough in my viewpoint that we can say that at least 10 to 20% of the algorithmic weight of the SEO when it comes down to technical aspects of the site is being considered. So yes, you can still rank websites that aren't fully technically optimized like Webflow, Squarespace, and Wix, but the chances of you actually achieving that first page on the key phrases that are competitive are getting slimmer by the day. And this discrepancy will become bigger and bigger as Google is increasing the number of technical requirements that they want to have presented on the first page of Google. So thus, this is like a logical argumentation why you cannot use hobby cheap websites in order to say that you built a real site. It's pretty obvious, right? It's pretty obvious. So the rationale for a lot of the builders is that when you have a builder, you have to load the code that is not going to be rendered in the user's browser, which means that you're loading the code through the browser that is designed to set the visual components to make them visible. I'm like overly simplifying this. Someone's gonna like try to hang me for not expressing myself perfectly correctly. But the bottom line is, if you have code that is loading the builder that is then loading the design assets, it means that there's like an intermediary between what you are seeing and what the browser needs to load. So you're loading junk. You're pushing junk through the browser, and as long as you're pushing junk through the browser, you are slowing the website down. And this is an explanation why a lot of WordPress websites also are having a hard time, especially websites that are built on Elementor, why they're having a hard time getting this speed requirement from Google. So let's run some numbers. We know that there's 46% of the internet is running on WordPress, which is astonishing number of websites that is running on WordPress. Out of those 46%, I think 10% of that, which is around like 10% of the internet, basically, I think that there might be 20% of the websites that are on WordPress, 20% of the WordPress websites are on Elementor, which makes it about 10%, almost 10% of the websites run on Elementor. So I consider Elementor and Webflow Framer and these other tools kind of bundled together into the category of builders. So builders will always have a hard time passing Core Web Vitals score. Now, I've seen a lot of people do some good magic with both Webflow and Elementor, but that is typically not the case. And oftentimes, like right now, we have a new criteria that's called interaction to next paint. And this interaction to next paint is becoming the ranking factor come March or April this year. So Google is like constantly raising the bar of how difficult it will be to rank the site and to satisfy all the technical criteria that they want to see in a website when they're launching the site. So the difficulty levels are always increasing, and the companies that are producing these builders are always going to be lagging behind, or the spread is going to be even harder to catch on, because the technical difficulty of solving that problem is pretty fucking strong. It's a big challenge, because we are doing this hand-coded sites. That's how we're building this this environment where there is no technical intermediary. There's no third-party code that needs to be loaded in between the browser and the consumer. They're just getting the digital assets straight from the server to their browser with no junk being loaded in between. That is the reason why all of these no-code tools, I am considering them as not real websites. They're hobby tools. They're really good for some form of landing pages. And a lot of times, for a lot of businesses, that should be the first number one option. But if you want to have a real website and you want to have real SEO results, something that's fine-tuned and tweaked to perfection, that is when you go to the custom code route. That is an actual website where you can outperform and outrun all the other competitors in your space and deliver top tier results to your visitors. So I hope this clarifies this whole confusion about why there are code solution and no code solution. And I hope it gives some clarity as to when you should use which ones. And I think that both of them have place in the ecosystem. However, if you want to do a good SEO, you will need to get yourself a real website. All right, Brian Decoded, over and out. Thank you for watching.